What's going on with Klay Thompson? We see that he, unfollowed the Warriors on all his social media accounts.
Oh, no.
Not good. Pretty much sign, sealed, and deliver. He's not going back. He's going to go somewhere else. Is this ultimately, is this kind of the end of this run with the Warriors? Are they kind of just old fodder now with everything that's going on in the West and the Celtics in the East, obviously? And what is Klay Thompson going to fetch on the open market?
I wouldn't assume that. I think he's negotiating. So they tried to get a deal done. So there was a couple other guys on their team that had won championships there who got new contracts, Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins, where they lowered the amount of money they were making and then added a bunch of years on, I think 4 years in both cases. And it sort of set the standard. Okay, Klay, now is when you will take a pay cut and we add years on. They tried to get something done before last season. They couldn't agree. Then Klay went out and didn't have a very good year. He had a good year by your average NBA player standards. He averaged 18 points and shot 39% on three. That type of production would probably get you $20 to $25 million if you were just saying, I'll deliver that to Team X in the open market. Klay was making over $40 million last year. So they want him to come down, and wherever that number is that they want him to come to, and the years. It's not just the amount of money per year, it's also the number of years. He saw Draymond and Andrew Wiggins get 4. I don't know exactly where his negotiations are, but if I were him, I would ask for 4 too. So I don't know if it's whatever the amount is or the years are, but clearly, even after a year of talking about it, they're not in a good place. And this, to me, sounds like a negotiation. I find it hard to believe that Klay would walk and go to a place like the Orlando Magic. But I guess it's possible. Yeah. And there's one other thing, and again, I'm not up to date on where these negotiations are, but knowing Klay a little bit, I wonder if it's not all about money. Obviously, he wants to get paid something that he considers
Scottie Pippen situation.
Fair.
I've been talking about this for a while, Wendy. I've been talking about this for a while. When he was golfing terribly, and he was getting it just chewed apart.
Yeah, killed.
And he had his own Klay Thompson brand on, and I was like, I've never heard of that. I don't know how many people are buying that. I hope people buy that, though, to support Klay Thompson. I started inevitably thinking, is Klay Thompson going to be bitter towards Steph Curry and this entire thing in the future? Is history going to look back and be like, Steph Curry is the reason why this entire thing, and forget about Klay Thompson? And then he unfollows him. Is there a chance that Klay Thompson is a little bit bitter about how this is all gone with the Golden State Warriors and legacy? Because they've done a lot together. For him just to be like, nah, fuck this team. It's like, yo, you guys have won a lot. There's a lot of things that have happened together for him to unfollow you.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay, hey.
This could end up being still a happy story. But I would say that, remember last year, Klay was getting benched at the end of games. He lost his starting job at some point. So part of this may be, and I do not know exactly. I've been covering the finals. I do not know exactly the status of negotiations. But part of this may be, what's the role going to be? I want to get starter money, then I want to be a starter, something like that. So it's definitely a signal to the rest of the world. He knew exactly what he was doing, that things are not going well. And if I was interested in signing Klay, which there are teams definitely who want to do that, I would have seen that as a green light when June 30th gets here. That is when you're allowed to start talking to him. They can still come to terms between now and June 30th. I will just say, a few years ago, this happened with Andre Iguodala. They had won a couple of championships with Iguodala, and he was a free agent, and he wanted to get taken care of. And basically, he wanted to be kind of overpaid. And he took a free agent tour. And I remember Steve Kerr telling the story that when the Warriors actually went in to meet with him in this boardroom, that Iguodala had left knickknacks and pamphlets and brochures from other teams, as, hey, just so you know, this isn't my first meeting. And Iguodala did that, acted like he was going to go to the Rockets, who were their arch nemesis at the time. And at the end of the day, he got re-signed. And he was sort of at the same stage of his career as Klay is. So I agree it doesn't look good, but I would also say don't misjudge a negotiation for, a statement of finality.
Okay. Well, I hope that's the case because Splash Brothers were awesome to watch there for a while.
So fun.
And then obviously the whole conversation was Klay can't hold up his end of the bar. That's seemingly what the media started saying, while Steph continued to make shots and Klay seemingly didn't. Now, I think there was injuries that happened.
Major.
Which is always a part of the entire grand conversation. But it's I hope Klay Thompson and we as a sports world don't forget that, like, hey, Klay, you were a massive piece of that.
Yeah.
You're a massive piece of that whole thing. And, like, the reason why the Golden State Warriors are such a nationally recognized brand at this particular time is because of something that you helped build over there. The future, though, weird. Like, let's say Klay isn't there. And then you talk about how great the West is. Steph Curry's still out there, right? Steph Curry's one of the biggest stars in basketball still, or?
Yeah, for sure. He's still a top.
I haven't seen him play basketball in a long time.
Long time.
I haven't seen him play, and that's what the playoffs are.
The interesting thing that they got going on is they've got Chris Paul. Chris Paul has a non-guaranteed contract for $30 million. He is no longer a $30 million player. You would assume that if Chris Paul, if Klay was re-signed, that they would actually doesn't even really matter with Klay, that they would sort of release him from his contract because they don't want to pay him $30 million. But one option that they have is if Klay were to make it seem like he was going to leave, they could trade Chris Paul with a draft pick or two or a young player or two, and that contract becomes like a piece that you use in a trade. So that's something that that they can sort of maneuver and say, okay, well, if you want to walk, we can always use this Chris Paul deal as a trade. Now, I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but the Warriors have maneuverability there. It's not just being left high and dry. And they also have young players. The guy they drafted last year, Brandon Pajemski, was a very effective playing alongside Steph. Moses Moody, their top 10 pick from a couple years ago, just had his best season. Jonathan Kuminga just had a good year.
Big year.
If I had to wager, I would say that they figure something out with Klay, although I admit right now it's probably not in the best place.
Okay, and then you think about, and we're pulling for all parties. We hope everybody gets rich, and we hope everybody plays good basketball.
That's right.
Amen.
Love watching Steph. Steph was missed this playoff run, personally.
For sure.
Just as somebody that enjoys watching Steph play basketball, I missed watching him do his thing.